Legend has it that centuries ago, there was a place on this earth where you could hear a choir of agony deep within the Carpathian Mountains. A symphony of horror and blood-curdling screams of which echoed deep into the night without anyone mentioning a word of the torment which existed beyond their sight. Tribes of people who passed through the mountains would suddenly go missing to never be mentioned again. And for those unlucky few, they suffered a fate of which can only be described as far worse than death. The abomination that lay deep within the rock is now only but a rumor, but one such rumor which is filled with terror, fear, and deep paranoia. This demonic lair was the pinnacle of Tzimisce craft, a palace of pain and torment of which groaned in agony over the centuries. Many have heard its name, but few dare to speak it aloud, for this is one of the most cursed locations in all of the world of darkness. The Transylvanian abomination, the Cathedral of Flesh. But first, if you enjoy grim tales about dark universes or want to know more about the world of darkness, perhaps leave a like or even subscribe, as it helps the channel immensely. Also consider following over on Twitch for weekly Friday streams. Transylvania is a site revered in vampiric history as the epicenter of various critical events which still hold weight in today's world of darkness. It was the location where the mage Goratrix, otherwise known as Tremere, diablerized the antediluvian Sorlot, giving birth to the clan of warlocks. It was also the very place where the warlord Vlad Tepes was inducted into his unlife to wreak terror across the world as Dracula. But for many, Transylvania is known for something far more sinister, of which most of those within the wider vampire societies scarcely speak of. These lands are the found home of the clan of fiends, the terrifying Tzimisce. Tonight's installment will take us back many centuries ago, to the time where vampires preyed upon humanity with impunity. The monsters we will be detailing are some of the most powerful that ever stood foot in this frightful world, and were godly beings in their own right, namely the Tzimisce founder, the antediluvian known as the Eldest, but more importantly, its childer, Yorak, voivode amongst voivode, the architect of the Cathedral of Flesh. Before the deluge, the great biblical flood, the Tzimisce antediluvian had already departed from the first city, where his fellow kindred remained. After having spent perhaps a century in isolation within the first city, attempting to seek enlightenment from the clutches of its humanoid form, the Eldest sought to detach itself from the small kindred society founded by Cain. On its travels across the world, it sired many vampires, creating Childer to observe the malleability of the vampiric form. Yet this journeying led to another revelation. After an age of traveling, the Eldest found itself within the cursed land of Transylvania. Under the vast mountain range of the Carpathians, however, was a great demon, which remained chained and restless under the watchful eyes of the Garu tribe, the Shadow Lords. The demon, detained by the werewolves, was a being of insurmountable power and magnitude. It was said that its form was not contained solely just within the expanse of a singular mountain, but the entirety of the Carpathian range. It was supposedly the first demon bound to the earth to spread its horror amongst its inhabitants, and its power raged like a blasting inferno, with its palpable cursed energy beating like a malignant heartbeat under the Transylvanian stone. It is said that the Eldest found this demon and entered into what perhaps could be considered a boon or a repaid favor. The antediluvian would free the demon from its sealment via the lupines in exchange for the creature's arcane knowledge. The Eldest then set to work, engaging with the werewolves who guarded the demon with his own unliving brood, to destroy whatever resistance barriered his efforts to free the demon. What the Eldest did not know, however, was that this demon, the Kupala, was known by another term, one which would spike terror into the hearts of any that fear the apocalypse, a talon of the worm. The Eldest was met with fierce resistance, and the struggle which ensued was bloody and wrathful. However, after the toils of battle, the Eldest managed to free the demon amongst the corpses of the wolves, but saw very soon that it could not be unbound from its earthly ties. When the great deluge befell the world, the Eldest sought shelter with the demon Kupala. The antediluvian's new domain would be shared with this beast, and those that wandered upon its entrance would be granted wanted hospitality, yet with a dire price: their blood for the antediluvians' insatiable appetite. As the years passed, we focus our lens upon Yorak, the childer of the Eldest. A female before the embrace, the Methuselah transformed their being through the clan's powers of flesh crafting to enter unlife as a man. A staunch practitioner of metamorphosis, Yorak's powers of vicissitude were unparalleled, and such would be displayed in his magnum opus, a sight of pure gut-wrenching horror. According to legend, the Eldest had met torpor at the hands of Samiel, the childer of the antediluvian Sorlot during the Barley Wars. However, the antediluvian's body was vowed to be protected, and what better tomb for the master of vicissitude than a fortress of tortured living flesh? Assuming the mantle of the clan's supreme leader, the voivode among voivodes, Yorak ironically had little interest in matters of leadership or kingly duties. He had another goal, and was beset upon reaching the fated state of enlightenment, Arsi Dahaka, otherwise known as the ultimate state of being. Yorak dwelt within the caverns of the Carpathian Mountains, where those damned whispers of the demon Kupala echoed the loudest. In this cursed, secluded space did Yorak begin his work, and over centuries, the worst abomination known to recorded history would be erected in horrifying magnitudes. The longer Yorak dwelt within these caverns, the less he cared about the outside world. He was entranced by his work, and ensured that more victims were collected to add to this so-called art. Over centuries of work, the subterranean levels of the Carpathian Mountains were now host to a vast network of caverns and tunnels, yet they were now a magnum opus to pain and suffering. The walls were lined with thousands of suffering victims, alive and conscious of the perpetual torture rendered upon their mutilated bodies. It is said that where the stalagmites and the stalactites formed, pillars of bone and cartilage overlapped the limestone, creating a horrific blend of liquid architecture. The walls were laden with floating organs and viscera, and were decorated with the emaciated skulls of its victims, still very much alive, with their muscular tissue and eyes forcibly kept intact by ghouls and revenants. So much so that they would blink and stare in nightmarish horror at the dismantled state of which they were kept in. The Tzimisce brood within this so-called cathedral would later take the flesh and skin from their conscious victims, and would treat it as if it were a fresh canvas, draping the windows and ornaments with screaming vessels who longed for their suffering to be put to an end. Yet this was merely the standard decor. Yorak was a sinister being with unbridled creative vision. It is said that he constructed an ornate pool of blood, of which he fashioned living chairs within, of which you could sit upon, all whilst their mortal groans filled the chamber. One of his most sadistic exhibits was a gallery, a vast corridor of hundreds of mouths and grafted bodies, of which upon entering they would wail and scream a chorus of agony. The very essence of this place was a collection of turmoil and relentless pain, and culminated in a vast collective consciousness, echoing only the most dire of human emotion. It was a sight that would only survive in your most horrific nightmares, and was said to have been the greatest masterpiece ever created within the old world. However, within these present nights, if you were to visit this so-called Cathedral of Flesh, all you would find is a single tunneled entrance, and the bare rocky caverns inside. Some say the Kupala utilized the vast networks of bodies to diablerize Yorak from within. Others say it has simply moved locations. But none will ever burn its memory from the history of the kindred, for many still fear its name alone: the undying Cathedral of Flesh. Thank you for watching tonight's disturbing episode. I hope you enjoyed all the grim details, and if you want to see more, please do let me know what you would like to see coming up next. If you really enjoyed this installment, feel free to drop us a like or even subscribe, and perhaps follow us on Twitter and Twitch. We are currently streaming VTM Bloodlines every Friday at 9 PM GMT over on Twitch, and I'd love to see you there. The links are in the description. And so, until next time, stay safe and do not wander naively into the night.